Good morning, everybody. This is Dana. Welcome back to my channel. Today, our project is going to be a traveler's notebook, and specifically, we're going to make a student planner. I found these student planners at Dollar Tree for $1, and I thought with school starting back again, it's going to be the perfect time for our students. You know, our organized students are going to need some kind of planner. Here's one that I have put together already. It has a couple of paper clips, a pen on a pen loop. Here's our student planner. This is what the student planner looks like on the inside. What I love about these student planners is they go from July to December of next year. So they actually start on the school year. So you're not having to waste calendar space in the planner because it starts in July. So you're wasting like 1 month instead of 7 months. So I'll say right up front, I am using Crafty Crafts by Dina. Has several videos on how to make a traveler's notebook. This is going to be a B6 size, which is roughly about a 5x7. And so I have used her instructions and her cutting and scoring instructions on all the papers, except for a couple things I'm going to do differently, and I'll point out what those are. So if you want full tutorials, we're going to breeze through this fairly quickly, but if you need a full tutorial, go over to Crafty Crafts by Dina's YouTube channel, and she has tons of videos on traveler's notebooks, full tutorials that go fairly slowly for you to follow if you get lost on my instructions here. So I'm going to put these books aside. These are what we're using. Again, the student planner from Dollar Tree. And then I'm using a 5x7 composition book that I got at Walmart. These are about, I think, like 82 cents. And I find them on the aisle, not with the school stuff, but with the notebooks, with the office supplies. And they're typically on the bottom shelf. That's where I've always found them in my Walmart. So we're going to be utilizing this, but we don't need those right now. So the first thing I want to start is on the cover. So let's put these aside. I am using a paper pack by Authentique, and I love this paper pack. And let me just pull over the title of this. I have used this over and over again. Let me see. And I believe it's called Fabulous by Authentique. And there are tons of such cute retro prints in here. I've owned 2 or 3 of them, and I'm on my last one. So what I've done is I have trimmed the cover to 7 1/4 inches tall by 11 1/4 inches wide. And I have scored it. Let me see if we can see the score. You can't really see the score lines, but I have scored it at 5 1/8, 5 5/8, and 6 1/8 on the long side. So our score lines are going this way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my corner rounder using my 1/4 inch quarter round, and I'm going to just round all my corners and get this ready to be laminated. Why can't I get that corner? There we go. So we'll get this ready to be laminated. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-fold on my score lines, not the middle one, but the outer 2 score lines. That middle score line gives us a place to kind of measure for our holes, and it gives a little give to the cover once it's laminated and you start filling it up. But I don't actually fold on that score line. I leave it. And if it needs some give, then it'll give, it'll give a little bit. Okay, so that's what we have. Now, we're going to prepare to laminate this. I have my laminator warming up in the background here on my table. Now, I will say, this is the one thing different that I do. A lot of people use the little laminated pockets that you can find at Target for their front and back covers. I can never find those. So I want to show you what I do to add a pocket on the front and back cover without having to find the self-adhesive sheets at Target. So I'm going to pull in, this is a scrap piece of laminated, a laminate cover. I'm trying to get my paper trimmer here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this. Okay, I'm going to keep, I want this rounded corner right there. Let me make sure I'm in frame. I'm going to keep this because I'm going to utilize this because I've rounded the corners on my edges. And I'm going to trim this down to 3 inches. By 5 1/16. So that is 5 and then the first little tick mark after the 5. Okay, so that's a scrap. So the thing about laminating sheets is, this is how we're going to utilize this because this is 2 layers. I'm going to pull this apart because this is 2 layers. I'm going to pull this apart like this. Let me move this out of the way. And this is how we're going to utilize that rounded corner. It's going to match up right in here to our rounded corner. Okay. I'm going to put these aside for just a minute and I'm going to insert my cover into the full laminate sheet. I've got little scrap bits floating around here. I'm going to push it right up against the edge here because this sheet of this laminating sheet and the dimensions that we've cut the cover fit this perfectly up to the edge over here on this side. We will not have to trim that edge at all. So you want to tuck it right up against the edge over here when you insert it in. And I'm just kind of flattening it down. Okay, now here's where these are going to come into play. I'm going to insert this into the laminate sheet. Let me make sure that you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to insert this into the laminate sheet. I'm going to match up the rounded edge to the rounded corner here. And if you feel your laminate sheet, you have a shiny side and a tacky side. You want tacky side up because it's going to go onto the tacky side, or the tacky sides are going to meet right here. And you're not going to be able to see this very well because they're clear, but I'm just putting this right down into and lining up the bottom edge. Let me see if you can see that. You can kind of see it. Let me pull it up here. Okay, you can see it there. I've just matched it onto the bottom and the left edge with the rounded corner there. Now what's that going, what is that's going to do, I'm tongue twisted here, sorry about that. It's going to cause the 2 laminated sheets to melt together in this area right here and not to the paper. So when we slice along this line, it opens up a pocket. Now we're going to do the same thing with the other side, making sure we have the tacky side up. I'm just going to match this over in this corner along the left-hand side and the bottom edge. And that should just miss your score lines. Okay, and I'm going to just press this to make sure everything holds together. Now I have my laminator on in the background, so I'm going to come off camera for just a second, and I'm going to run this through my laminator. Okay. And I'm going to hold, kind of just hold where the pockets are. They're going to hold pretty well. But for me, just in case, I'm going to kind of hold those together until it gets into the laminator. And I don't have to worry about it slipping. So I'm just running that through now. Sorry that I have to be off camera for this, but I just don't have space on my desk for everything I need. And I thought this was a really great idea. I've seen a lot of people do this on YouTube. And it's a great way to make a pocket without having to, number one, buy anything extra. And I'm really big on that. I am a single mom. My income is very limited. I am disabled. So I don't have a lot of extra income to buy things that I don't really need. So I'm always looking for alternatives to making something that will save me some money. Because I've got a lot of craft supplies on hand. I think a lot of us do. And I can usually come up with a way to create what I need instead of having to go buy another thing. Okay, so this is just finishing up through my laminator. And I'm gonna pull it in for you to see. And you can see those pockets now. Now what I'm gonna do is, it came out like this. I'm gonna flip it over and I'm gonna run it through one more time. Just wanna make sure everything's sealed down really good. And it might be overkill, but that's me. I'd rather be safe than sorry. It'll be just another moment. That's gonna come through my laminator. And while that's finishing up, we'll get on with putting together some of our other elements here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this composition notebook, and what I do with these is this has 80 sheets in it, and what I do, so it's actually 40 sheets double-sided, and what I do with these is I create 2 notebooks for my Traveler'S notebooks, and I use 1 notebook per Traveler'S notebook. So I'll split this in half and make 2 notebooks out of it. This is about ready to come out of the laminator. That I'll have both my hands free here. Okay, I'm gonna turn my laminator off because we will not need that again. Okay, so here it is. Isn't that adorable? That print is so cute. Okay, I'm gonna set this aside and we'll work on this a little bit more later. So what I do with these is I open it up like this, and I bend the top part over, and you see how it's stitched in, and I give it one good yank, and all of that just comes right out. Okay, and this is now trash. I have not found a useful thing to use those with yet. And then what I'm going to do is open this up to the middle, and I am going to remove the string. I need something a little sharper just to grab that string. There it is, and that should just pull right out. And there we go. So now I'm just going to count 20 sheets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And I'm going to pull that out. Okay, and I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm just going to run it along the edges of these notebooks, especially this one, because that one came out of the front half of the notebook. And so see that gap? We don't want that. We're just gonna use our bone folder and just press that down. And look at me, the perforations are so sensitive. So I'm just gonna pull this sheet off, no big deal. We just won't use this one. Okay, so we have those, and here are the covers for my notebooks. Is this not cute? I love that so much. Look at the other side. These are 10 inches wide by 7 inches tall. and I scored them in half, or you can just fold them in half and burnish it with your bone folder. And I did that for both my covers. Are these just not cute? Love these papers. So retro feeling. Okay, and what I'm gonna do is take my corner rounder on the 1/2 inch side, because these are fairly big. My cover is 1/4 inches, but these particular notebooks happen to have bigger corner rounds on them. So I'm just gonna round the corners so that they match up with the notebook. And then I'm going to just place these inside my covers, making sure that if it's directional pattern, which I don't think mine are, this one is, so I want to go right side up. Okay, now these are ready to be stitched, and what I do is I sew mine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this kind of in a V, where the cover, I'm going to press these down into the crease, and I'm going to take a couple binder clips and I'm just going to clip those where they go so that those hold in place while I'm sewing the spine. Now, if you don't have a sewing machine, or you don't want to use your sewing machine, that's perfectly fine. You can staple them if you have a long arm stapler that will reach. You can do that. Or I'll show you what I have that I have done in the past too. I have this kind of special stapler, and it has like a swivel head on it. Really neat. I'll show it to you here in just a second. Let me get this clipped. I like the sewn look. But here is this really unique stapler that I have. Looks like any other stapler, but what it does is the head of it swivels out. So you can get into here to staple if you want to. And I found that on Amazon. If I can find the link for it, I'll put it in the description box below. Okay, so I'm gonna pause the video here, and I'm just gonna sew a straight stitch right down the middle here. Oh, and just a tip, if you are gonna use your sewing machine, use a longer basting stitch. If you use a tight stitch, it's gonna just tear the paper. So give me just one moment, I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back from the sewing machine, and what I've done is just stitch down the middle here to close up my notebooks. So we'll take the clips off. And we'll just kind of fold these over. And there we have our finished notebooks. Ready to go for our Traveler's notebooks. Super cute. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cover our student planner. So what I'm going to do is take the cover off. And this is it's a glued spine, not a stitched spine. So we're going to utilize just the cover that's on here. Okay. So what I have done is I have cut a piece of paper, and we're not going to round the corners because the corners on these planners are not rounded. Okay. And this is the paper I've chosen for this one. Really cute. Isn't that cute? Okay. And let's see, the measurements for this are 7 tall by 9 inches wide. And I've scored at, oh, and it looks like I did not score this one. So let me grab my scoreboard. Grab my little scoring stylus here. So I'm going to score at 4 3/8. So 4, 1, 2, 3/8. And 4 5/8. Okay, because we have this little flat spine here that we need to cover. So those score lines are going to help us do that. All right. So now I'm going to fold on my score lines, making sure Just a tip, when you're folding after you've scored, make sure your bottom edge is lined up before you burnish that score line. Sometimes it won't line up, and then you end up with a wonky, your paper's not even. Do you see how that doesn't line up when I pinch the score line here? So I'm just gonna even up the bottom edge and then burnish it down. And see, now this is gonna fit right in here. And we're gonna use glue for that. I'm gonna use wet glue. My preferred wet glue is art glitter glue. Okay, so that's gonna fit in there just like that and cover that super cute. Okay. I'm just gonna make sure that that is all even where it's supposed to go. All right. So what I'm gonna do first is glue the spine. Making so that I can make sure the spine's on there nice and flat. So in between my score lines here, I'm gonna add a good amount of glue. And then I'm gonna take my book and I'm gonna press it into the spine, making just sure that this top edge is even. There we go. And I'm gonna kind of use my table to help me. And I'm just gonna press that in really good. And I'm gonna take my bone folder and press that spine on really good. All right, so we're good to go there. So I'm gonna open up the cover and I'm gonna run glue here up against where the cardstock meets the spine here, so we have some extra support. And then I'm just gonna fill this top cover with glue. All right, now I'm gonna lay this down into the glue. Again, kind of making sure my top edge is lined up, because if I have one lined up edge, got some glue on those pages there. If I have one lined up edge, that if I have any overhang on the other end, which I do a little, if you see this, I've got just a little bit of overhang, can barely tell. That way I can just trim that off. So we're gonna do the same thing for the back. Glue the back cover down. So if you can find those student planners and you want to make one of these, I found mine at Dollar Tree in the back to school stuff. And so those measurements 7 by 9 are for this particular student planner. So I'm going to just press that down, wipe off any excess glue. And I'm just going to run my bone folder, making sure we have good contact with our glue on the front and the back. And there we have it. Very cute. Now I'm going to take care of that overhang that's on the bottom edge. So if you have any overhang, you just open it up. And I'm just take my scissors and I'm going to rest up against the chipboard here, this chipboard cover, and I'm just going to trim off any excess. Open this up so I can get to the spine here. Cut around that. And get all of that excess off. And there we go. All right. So now we have our 2 notebooks and we have our planner. So we'll put that aside. Okay, so now we're gonna make our folder. Now I did do my score lines on this one. So we have here our folder, our pocket folder is 10 inches across by 11 inches tall. Okay, and on the 10-inch side, with the 10-inch side up in your scoreboard, you're going to score at 5, and then you're gonna rotate it once to the left, and you're gonna score at 7. Okay, And then we're going to fold on all of our score lines, I'm matching up my corners here before I burnish down. And I'm going to turn it this way and fold on my other score line. I like to make my Traveler's notebooks out of double-sided paper because the folders, it's nice to have a print on the inside too, as well as the covers. Now, what I'm going to do is open this back up and I'm going to fold it long ways with my 4-inch scored piece here at the top. I'm going to take my long scissors and I'm going to cut just a small sliver out of the middle. And the fold is on this side. Okay, so I'm cutting out of that fold so that when we open it and fold it up, we have our folder here. So I'm just going to glue, I'm going to run a bead of glue right here. And again, matching up the edge, I'm going to glue the edge of my pocket down. And the same thing over here. Just run a bead of glue on the edge. Line up the edges of my paper and glue that down. And so here we have our folder. So now I'm going to fold this and then I'm going to burnish this all the way around. And I'm going to I'm going to corner round my corners. Now I'm going to go on the 1/4-inch side and I'm just going to quarter round this side. This is going to lay against our elastic band, so we don't need to corner around those. So there's our folder. Isn't that cute? Okay, so we have all of our pieces ready. We're going to go back to our cover. Let me pull that in along with my paper trimmer. Move these out of the way and make sure that I'm in frame for you. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to trim off the excess laminate sheet. And you don't want to go too close because you don't want to open up. There's a little air pocket on that laminated edge. You see that air pocket? You don't want to open that up. So don't get too close to it. I leave like maybe 1/8 of an inch or even 1/16 of an inch. We're going to trim off those sides, and that's the only place that we need to trim because remember, our paper fit in our laminate cover perfectly. So I'm going to take my corner rounder again, and on the 1/4-inch corner, I'm just going to round those corners. Okay, now what I'm going to do, because my phone is weird and every time it reaches 4 gigs of space on recording space, it automatically starts a new video. So I don't want it to stop in the middle of what we're going to do here by punching our holes and running our elastic. So what I'm going to do is just stop it now and start the second video. So continue on to the second video, part 2, and I'll label them part 1 and part 2. And we will finish our cover, open our pockets, run our elastics. Okay, so I'll see you there in part 2.